It is said that the black guy was tied to a stool in the US military base, and Thanos, the top special forces soldier, walked to the room with a military computer in his hand, helping the young man to take off his black hood. The young man used a bystander to see that the hood was still not black. He was very proud of himself, but he didn't care at all. When he opened the military computer, there was a picture of the attack drone. The place where the missile was locked was the young man's brother's house. Thanos asked Shawa to confess, otherwise he would have bombed his brother. Shawa was so stubborn that he didn't panic at all. Thanos flashed around and locked Shawa's head and ordered to launch missiles. After a sea of fire, Xiaohua watched his brother lose his temper with his own eyes, but it was not enough. The code book told Xiaohua that another drone was targeting Xiaohua's mother. If he did not confess, his mother would be reincarnated. Xiaohua turned pale with fright and confessed everything. It turns out that 2 days ago, smugglers on the US-Mexico border fired grenades and injured men. And a supermarket in Texas was attacked, causing a lot of casualties. The president ordered Thanos to find the mastermind no matter what. So Thanos arrested the black man who was smuggling his tongue. According to the black man's confession, the person who sponsored the attack was the Mexican drug lord. After Thanos got the information, he immediately decided to start a war with the Mexican drug lords. Received $300 million in combat funds from combat headquarters, found a black market weapons dealer, and rented 2 Black Hawk helicopters, 3 tanks, and 4 top-level mercenaries for $10 million per month. But these combat forces were not enough. He rushed to Colombia in person and found his old friend, the top killer Society King. It happened that Society King and a Mexican dude, Ziku, immediately agreed to form a team with him. And a battle plan was also very simple. Pretending to be other Du Xiao's younger brothers, they kidnapped the target Du Xiao's daughter, causing a scuffle among them. Taking advantage of the fisherman's strength, Juan and others were photographed on the streets of Mexico City. They wore masks and took out rifles and fired wildly at car. That man of 300 pounds ran out of car. Juan rushed up and shot the man. This fat man was the senior lawyer of the drug lord. The traces of the battle at the scene were deliberately faked and imitated in a very unprofessional way, turning it into a gang fight. For a time, the major forces began to suspect each other. The drug lord sent 8 bodyguards to protect his daughter, Lil Beauty, as she went to and from school. As soon as the convoy got there, Shun Huang and others approached. The bodyguard attacked them on the spot. The remaining 2 bodyguards were handcuffed to the door. In the name of other exploited boys, King Shang Hui asked the bodyguards to send a message to the eldest brother, asking the eldest brother to redeem the little beauty with money. The little beauty was put on glasses, soundproof headphones, put on a hood, stuffed into a helicopter, and arrived at the US military base. However, this was not enough. Since they were acting, they had to perform the whole set. He took the pretty girl into a remote cabin, locked her in a toilet, and asked her younger brother to take off her blindfold and earphones. The little pretty girl was so frightened that she shivered and kept begging for mercy. Then a group of police appeared, following the instructions of Canada. The police pretended to shoot and broke the glass, and a special police rushed into the room. He imitated the Holy King of Melee and pretended to be a policeman when he entered the bathroom and rescued the little beauty. He became the benefactor of saving the little beauty. He told the little beauty that he would send the little beauty back to Mexico. He took the little beauty into the US military base and pretended to provide the safest. At the same time, when Uncle Thanos was under control, he monitored the scene of the kidnapping of the little beauty and found that the bodyguard who stayed to deliver the message was killed on the spot by the Mexican police. This shows that the policeman who fired the shot was a drug lord, and the drug lord had been fooled and was preparing to gather strength to start a war with him. And Thanos likes to add fuel to the fire, and once again make plans to send the little beauty back to Mexico. The location is the territory of other independent players. In this way, the little beauty's father will completely believe that a competitor has kidnapped his daughter. In this case, the major forces will start a war within 2 days. But this matter had to be smuggled from the United States to Mexico in order to hide it from others. So Thanos found a Mexican sheriff and bribed the Mexican border police to sneak in through a secret passage. The police chief sent out a dozen Mexican border police in pickup trucks and mounted heavy machine guns to protect Uncle Thanos and others. Unexpectedly, just as they crossed the Mexican border, the police suddenly opened fire on Uncle Thanos and others. A heavy machine gun pointed at the bulletproof wall of the coat, and the glass cracked. A rocket flew inside. The wealthy car was overturned. Uncle Thanos and others were suppressed. An outraged enemies. They could only return the spot. A burst of flames shot up to the sky, and the enemies inside were wiped out. The King of Destruction and the King of Destruction quickly opened the car door and quickly dug into the ground and fired, hitting the shooter and killing him instantly. Xuan immediately rushed out the car. It took only 3 seconds for Phoenix to swim. The policeman in front was completely eliminated. However, the policeman behind pretended to be innocent and allowed Shi Wang and others to save their team. And took the opportunity. A special Red Emperor and others immediately fought back and killed all their opponents. At this time, news came on the radio that a large number of Mexican police were coming to support them, and they had to retreat quickly. When a Red Emperor returned to the car, he was completely stunned. The little beauty actually ran into the big door and became desperation. The Emperor asked Thanos and others to retreat first, leaving him behind to pursue the pretty girl. Thanos immediately drove the car and traveled across the US-Mexico border and returned to the US military base. Due to the failure of the operation, he killed more than a dozen Mexican policemen. The president personally revoked Thanos' command. Let the person in charge of the base, Sister Cruel, take over. Sister Cruel immediately issues a cleanup order to kill the pretty girl and eliminate all evidence without leaving any. Xiao Pianzi ran around next door and met a strong man. The strong man wanted to put him into the car and take him away. He struggles desperately, but to no avail. At the critical moment, Shun Huan appeared and shot the strong man to death. He drove him to the US-Mexico border. At this time, Uncle Thanos called and asked the Emperor to kill the little beauty and collect the money to go home. However, the Emperor disobeyed the order because the little beauty reminded him of his deceased daughter. As a father, he could not bear to do anything to Xiao. When Uncle Thanos heard that he had disobeyed the order, he was furious and mobilized personnel and helicopters to go to Mexico to kill him and a little beauty. Shen Huan also knew that if he disobeyed the order, he would be hunted down by Uncle Thanos. I dug a big pit and buried all the equipment. I asked the pretty girl to cut her hair short and put on ordinary clothes and pretend to be a stowaway. She planned to sneak into the United States through tongue smuggling before making plans. On the stowaway bus, he thought everything was safe. Unexpectedly, Tom suddenly took out a gun and took control of him. He took out a pistol from his body and ordered other stowaways to get off. Then Brother Tongue appeared and recognized the little beauty at first sight. As long as the little beauty is safely handed over to Du Xiao, he can get millions of bonuses. He immediately ordered his men to take the little beauty out of the car and lock him in his own car. Shen Wang told Brother Tongue, "You better let me go, otherwise you will probably lose your temper completely." The other party saw that Shen Wang dared to be so angry in his own territory. He immediately ordered his younger brother to knock him to the ground, picked up a sack, put it over his head, packed it with tape, and threw him off the bus. Then he pressed him to the ground and rubbed him wildly. He was beaten until he screamed, but could not fight back. And the process of him being beaten was clearly seen by Uncle Thanos with a surveillance drone. He immediately ordered combat helicopters to follow the Tongue convoy to eliminate them. At the same time, Brother Tongue took Shi Huang and the two of them to a beach next door and asked him to kneel on the ground and ordered a younger brother to kill him with a gun. Unexpectedly, this younger brother was so cowardly that he didn't even dare to shoot. This older brother couldn't hold back his anger and shot him. The younger brother handed the gun to his younger brother Xiaoming. Xiaoming is a ruthless man and came to Shi Huang with a gun, his eyes filled with murderous. I raised my hand and shot him in the face. He instantly fell to the ground without any movement. A small film showed that he was out of breath. I was very anxious. I could do nothing. I could only be led on the road by the snakehead, but it was not over yet. As a killer, Huang's face was shot through by bullets, but his skin was durable and he could survive. Just as a group of people left, he suddenly started to move and writhed on the ground. He took off his hood and came to the gas station to untie his belt. After tightening the tape, he immediately released his hands and took off the mask. His whole face was swollen into a pig's head. At this time, he was dizzy and climbed up the next stall. He just wanted to find a car and leave the big neck. Just when he was looking for a car, there was a big problem with Tom. The Toms drove the car and chatted for a while. They wanted to send a small piece back, get a reward of millions, marry a wife, buy a house, etc. But Xiao Ming, who was sitting in the back, always felt that something was wrong. Xiao Ming gritted his teeth and jumped out the car. Others laughed at Xiao Ming for being too timid. Unexpectedly, 5 minutes after Xiao Ming got to the door, some black people's got to the notion. Brother Tongue ordered his younger brother to aim at the helicopter immediately and not to shoot. Uncle Thanos gave the order to attack. The helicopter accelerated and stopped in the middle of the road, locking Tom. The Special Forces soldiers quickly got out of the car and immediately shot a group of Tongs in the instant. What's even more frightening is that the Special Forces marksmanship is so strong they killed all the snakeheads, and the little beauty was not injured at all. Uncle Thanos picked up the little beauty and wanted to return to the base. His men reminded him that he must kill the little beauty to solve all the trouble. So he told his men that only if the little beauty is alive and the killer is Wang can they feel at ease. Otherwise, everyone in the US military base will be assassinated. The boy was instantly frightened and broke into a cold sweat and dared not speak again. After the helicopter flew away, Shi Huang came to the scene of the battle. He rummaged through Tung's corpse and found 3 grenades and a pistol. He cleaned up the vehicle and started driving. Unexpectedly, not far away, a car appeared to chase him. He raised his hand and picked up a grenade to deliberately slide. And the other party car, he threw it into the other party's car. The other party's car was instantly reduced to rubble. However, he was so dizzy because of the injury that he drove the car and hit the railing. He rested for half an hour before driving on and continued on the road. Time flew by and a year passed by. At that time, Xiao Ming, who had a chance to escape, became the local tongue-tied brother. At that time, he was dressed in skinny shrimp and swayed left and right. Xiao Ming came to the kitchen of the restaurant and wanted to make something to eat. Unexpectedly, as soon as he entered the door, he saw Shi Huang standing in the kitchen. Now Xiao Ming was so frightened that he broke into a cold sweat. After all, a year ago, he shot Shi Huang in the head. Shi Huang was also naughty and took out a gun and taunted him, saying that your pippy shrimp looks good. Let's close the door and have a good chat. As soon as he finished speaking, Huang closed the iron door and heard a burst of screams from the kitchen. In this way, the nickname of the naughty boy in the area was completely ended. In a US military base, Uncle Ba was criticized by the leader for disobeying the order and not killing a pretty girl. This made Uncle Ba, he embezzled 200 million yuan and went to Titan. However, due to the Japanese King Titan's arrival into river sewage, the cucumbers on Titan mutated. After eating the cucumbers, Uncle Maiba lost his hair and his skin turned the color of purple sweet potatoes. At this time, the Thanos book was completely angry and changed his name to Thanos. He returned to Earth to get his hair back. Later, the Thanos book was strangled to the ground by the captain and others, rubbed and turned into dregs. So far, the top special forces of a generation, Thanos book still hangs in the hands of the people on Earth after becoming the universe-level boss Thanos. From then on, Thanos lived an indescribable happy life waiting to be roasted into purple sweet potatoes. This movie is the second part of Sicario, and the plot still continues the excitement of the first part. However, the second part describes more about how to check and balance large forces. For example, the male protagonist said in the movie that if a large force is divided into 50 small forces, then there will be no threat, because small forces will constantly fight against each other and consume each other's strength. In the film, the male protagonist kidnaps the poisonous little daughter and puts the blame on other forces and then makes them fight among themselves. This strategy is very vicious but the most worry-free. In addition, if you meet the purple sweet potato Thanos, what will you do? Tell Brother Huang in the comment area what you think. If you want to be ridiculous, ask him to eat cucumbers. I think he turned green. Today's movie is over. Remember to comment, like, collect, and follow Dawan Movies. See you next time.